All right, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for our webinar today, Life After Chatham for sophomore age students. Generally speaking, we would do this presentation in a gym class in person, but obviously we are adapting to the ever-changing world that we're living in these days. So we're going to go through some stuff as a webinar here. And as I mentioned, this is being recorded. That way I can share this information with those who might not have been able to attend this afternoon, and we can put on our Chatham College and Career website as well for future reference. So without further ado, I am going to present my screen so I can show you our slides and our presentations. And our presentation here, excuse me. Make sure this is pinned there. Awesome, great. So just to give you a general overview, we're going to go through some slides with general information about things that sophomores, you can be thinking about if you are curious about, life after Chatham and what that kind of looks like, because it does move faster than you think sometimes. So we want to make sure that you're prepped and ready for that in the counseling office here. So we'll go through that, and then I'm also going to live go through some pieces of Naviance to help you as you're going through and navigating, since some of you might not be very familiar with our Naviance tool given last year and the inconsistency with last year. So without further ado, like I said, I'm going to get started with our presentation. So again, thank you for joining us. Before we really dive into content, I do want to give an overview of kind of like a four-year itinerary, if you will, of what to expect here at Chatham in regards specifically to college and career prep and planning. So sometimes it's easier to understand when you see a whole roadmap, right? So as freshmen, you had your general basic information access to Naviance, and you met with your counselor, and you really got to know the school, especially in that first fall portion, and kind of focus on that transition piece. So now as sophomores, we're really focusing on exploring and thinking about your interests, personality, things that you might like and want to do in the future. So we will be doing our 10th grade session here today, obviously, right? And talking about other testing opportunities, summer activities that you can take advantage of, and thinking about some assessments and using tools that can help you think about and explore who you are and what you like. As juniors, we will have junior conferences with your counselor and parents or guardians. We also will have a very similar session like this for our 11th grade students, and we're going to have college visits at Chatham as well. So this past year, we were doing them virtually through Google Meet or Zoom. Maybe next year we'll be able to have them in person like we have in the past, so we'll see about that. And in that springtime, our juniors are really thinking about standardized testing. As we know, that's an ever-changing platform, especially with COVID and the changes that have been brought with COVID. So we will continue to talk through and update you all on that. But that's kind of the roadmap for your junior year in terms of college and career prep. The junior conference, I will point out, is one of the bigger opportunities to really talk about specifically what you would like to do, whether it's going to a trade, right to college, something along those lines. That's going to be the best opportunity for you to get that specified information that's specific to you and your path. And then senior year will follow a very similar format. We will have a senior conference with your counselor and your parent or guardian right in the fall, right in the beginning, to really crystallize what plans you have for time after Chatham, or either continue to help you explore what those plans might look like. We'll do a similar session like this with our 12th graders, but again, more content focused on the college application process and maybe application processes for other opportunities. And then again, our college visits are available to our seniors as well. So just a quick overview. There are obviously throughout the school year a lot of more opportunities, programming, things that get thrown in there based on the opportunities that we have made available to us. But just to give you kind of a framework of what you can expect over the next couple of years as you plan to think about time after Chatham. So when I talk about life after Chatham, I do like to address the fact that there is a menu full of options, right? I think one of the most common options that we have here at Chatham, or what students choose to do here at Chatham, is that college path that we see here in the green box. So one thing I do like to highlight is we often, when we think of college, what we see in the movies, right, things along those lines, maybe hear from peers, is that you have to dive right into a four-year traditional process. And so that is a very common opportunity for students here, and definitely something that is a great option for the majority of our students. But if you are interested, maybe you, number one, aren't totally sure what you want to study, maybe your grades in high school aren't that representative of who you are as a student. Sometimes students thrive in the college environment versus the high school environment. Maybe you're looking to save some significant costs. some significant money savings for college, some students can go through that 2-year process. So I definitely like to highlight that, as you could start at a community college. So for us, it's the County College of Morris. You can attend any other one as well. You just would pay a higher fee, not the in-county rate. And you can work on being a college student, getting college credits, and then transfer to a 4-year school at a later date. So again, this can be a really great option for students who might have a slew of different reasons for starting at the 2-year path. One of the biggest reasons in the past year, surprise, surprise, right, is COVID. Given that a lot of colleges were not in person for that traditional college experience. So some students elected to say, you know what, I'm going to start at the County College of Morris, or stay home because I would be at home no matter what. So this can be a really great opportunity for students. And the last thing I'll highlight about the 2-year path, or starting at a community college right after high school, is a lot of students think they have to do the 2-year. You could do 1 year, you could do 1.5 years, and then transfer to a 4-year school. There is a lot of flexibility with that. So that's something to really assess. Like, where are you at in terms of thinking about, am I ready to go on to a 2-year school or a 4-year school? And that's something you can talk with your counselor about, especially in the junior conference. We also have, the military is an option if you're looking to serve the country and give back in a varying different ways, whether it's the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. There's a lot of different ways that you can get started. Some individuals will go with the military path, and then through different government funding that you can get paid for college later. So sometimes students, if they're saying, I don't have a lot of money right now for college, I'll start with the military, and if I want to go to college later down the line, a lot of those students in the military, those people in the military, can have their college funded. So there's a lot of different ways that you can potentially get to that college path, maybe not always right from high school. Additionally, if you're interested in the military, but you are also interested in starting with college right away, there is an opportunity called the ROTC, the Reserve Officers Training Corps. And basically what that is for students in the college, I kind of equate it to, like, if you were an NCAA athlete, the military, the Army, the Navy, whichever branch you are in the ROTC, that's kind of like your sport, right? Like, academics are first, but right after that, ROTC comes second. So you're training, you're getting involved. And while you're doing that, it's not only paying and supporting your college attendance, you're getting your degree while at the same time, and usually for a really low cost, if not free. You're then committed for a certain amount of years to whatever branch you are participating in. So it does vary based on what you look to do, but sometimes people like to go that route as well. So there's a slew of opportunities and options to take there. Trade school is also an option for our students too. There are a lot of programs out there. So in particular, I always think of a student, if you like working with your hands, if you don't like sitting still or reading a book, or you feel like you learn better by using tactile methods, I think a trade school can be a great option for you. Usually that's something along the lines of maybe an electrician, a plumber, auto mechanic, cosmetology. There's a lot of programs in the health sciences field and also the computer sciences field that are trade school. And the benefit of this for trade school too is if you're not really feeling college bound, the trade school is still continuing education, but it's not the full commitment of maybe a 4-year or a bachelor's degree. So you're getting certifications, you're getting continued education, but you're also not having to commit for potentially those 4 years. So this can be a great option for you as well. Employment, you can dive right into the workforce right after your time at Chatham High School. Additionally, some students, I think in the past couple of years, not just at Chatham, but seniors from the class of 2020, some likely chose to work for a little bit, make some money, and then go maybe on to college or onto their next choice, knowing that this past year was going to be a little bit of a different year, for lack of better words, right? And so they were able to make some money to then maybe afford going to the college of their dreams. And then a gap year on the same kind of concept, that's growing in a lot of popularity, and I think we noticed a lot of students taking advantage of that as well. One example of a gap year could be employment, so you could look to work, and that could be part of your gap year. Sometimes gap years are study abroad opportunities. There are volunteer opportunities. So it really just depends. That's a very specific conversation that you'll want to have with your obviously parent and guardian and also your school counselor, just to kind of figure out, because that's not the right fit for everyone. It just depends on who you are and really taking toll of that. So that was a brief overview, right, of just like a full menu of options that you do have available to you. So we like to just make sure you're aware of that, and take that into consideration as you're focusing on your time after Chatham. So one of the biggest things, especially as sophomores, as we're talking about, what can I be doing right now? What are things I can be thinking about, actions I can take? And I think for us in the counseling department as well, it's really important to start to think about who you are. And I know that sounds corny or cliche or just like, how do I do that, right? You want to start thinking about things that you like, things that you do not like. Those things are going to inform the choices you make in regards to college and career choices. So in regards to understanding yourself, think about, I have some questions that I threw up on here. So what motivates you? Like, what makes you excited to wake up and go do something? What other interests do you have? What subjects in school do you like? And like I said, what subjects in school do you not like? So I know in particular, I studied English in college. I did not like math, and that was the most secure piece of information I knew consistently for a couple of years, which helped direct me towards my future career goals. What are your personal qualities? What are your circumstances? So by that question in the orange, really meaning how much, where are you currently living? What access do you have to things? Is there an international pandemic going on, right? Financially, is this next path something I can go right away from high school? So thinking about just like your specific circumstances as well. And something I will say, it can be difficult for us to like look internally at that. So the easiest thing to do is ask someone else. Ask your mom or your dad or your best friend these questions, or a slew of questions, and see what they say. Because sometimes we don't look internally in ourselves, or we don't see those things about ourselves, and other people can show that to us. So, I mean, even last night I was making dinner with my husband, and I said something about, he said, you're not even utilizing your best skill. And I had said, this skill. And he said, no, it's that one. And to me, it was eye-opening to think, he thinks that's my best skill, and I didn't think that was my best skill. So he was really helping me understand myself. So use those tools around you, those people around you. Additionally, there's a site called 16 Personalities, which I think is super helpful. It's a free site and free access for individuals, where you just go through and answer questions about yourself, things that you like, don't like, and it gives you a really full profile of things that your strengths, weaknesses, areas to work on, and just like general overview of like what you might like. I will show you later in the presentation that Naviance has tools just like this too, but 16 Personalities is just an add-on I like to throw on there for people who are looking for some more. So a good action item for you to be doing, especially like I said, as sophomores over the summer as you're becoming juniors, is make a list of the answers to these questions. Think of more questions. You could even Google questions about myself, right? To help navigate your choices. You could even start to put together a resume, which I'll show you on Naviance as well, that we have that ability for you too. So as I mentioned, there are a bunch of assessments on Naviance Student that you can take that are similar to that 16 Personalities assessment. So the first three in green, these are all academic strengths based, and the bottom three purple, those are more personality based. So, or excuse me, the purple are career based. Sorry about that. So the purple are more career based, which is something that I'm going to emphasize for our sophomores in particular to think about. So thinking about what areas of emphasis that you're interested in, because that can sometimes help point to you if you have nowhere to start. So when we're in Naviance, I'll show you where those are, and definitely encourage you all to take those. But just to give you, this is a brief overview of the 6 different assessments that they have on there, all free, and they don't take long to do. So I definitely recommend like popping on some good music, Spotify playlists, make a cup of tea, something along those lines, and take some of these assessments. So we just talked about like understanding yourself, and asking you to do that is sometimes a tall order because it's hard to get started, right? So we want to figure out how to figure it out. So this is how you can figure it out, right? I know it's kind of confusing, but it's hard to figure it out. So by doing that, I have some bullet points here to think about. I think one of the most important things is to seek advice from others. Just like I said earlier in talking with, thinking about you as a person, talk to other people in your life about what you think your skills are, what value you have, what things you like. Search online, utilize our tools. That's the bottom bullet down there. So Naviance, our site on the website, Google in general, if you have some specific, or specifications you're looking for. And then talk with your counselor. Your counselor here at the high school would be happy to talk through those different types of things about who you are, or what things that you think you are or want to learn about yourself, right? Take action, I think, is another really big one. So if you have an interest in something, let's say you have identified, I think I like the health sciences. Maybe look to volunteer at the local hospital. Obviously, with COVID, that is not the most accessible opportunity for students these days, but there are ways to still get involved, whether it's virtually online. Look to get a part-time job. If you know someone, maybe your mom or your dad has a friend who works as a physical therapist, asking if you can shadow to see if you like those types of things. So those are really helpful areas. And also, again, I'll show on Naviance, there are videos that are focused on, they're called like Road Trip Nation. So they're focused on different careers. So let's say you can't accessibly go out and volunteer as much as you used to because of COVID precautions. You could watch these videos to kind of see like that's what a day in the life looks like for someone who is an electrical engineer. And then I absolutely recommend taking academic action, right? So using the electives that we have at the high school, this is a link here that shows all of the electives that we have available. And it also has a couple videos that you can take a look at too, that explain the different electives. So I absolutely recommend doing that because that's a great way to get to know, to use your class time, the time that you're in school, to really utilize that in the best way possible. Look for maybe some online courses to see and confirm some interests of yours. And then also talk to your teachers, right? Like they're the ones who see you in class every day. And so they can give you some feedback on maybe things that they think you might be leaning towards based on how they see you reacting. So maybe you are in your history class, and when you get assigned an assignment that has to do with writing and you really like that writing piece, your teacher probably picks up on that and might say, that seems like a skill of yours or a strength of yours. The other piece I want to say, these are the bottom two sections here. Give yourself time. It is not a race, right? So while it is always great to, say, oh, this is what I want to do when I grow up, right? Sometimes those things change, and that's totally okay. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I'm very much not in a courtroom right now, right? So things do change and they develop as you go through time and you continue to grow. So give yourself some time. It's not a race. And just because you reach senior year, it does not mean that your career is set and decided. So a lot of times we think, oh, by the end of high school, we have this hard stop of, I need to have this idea and everything needs to be perfectly aligned, right? You're 18, they're still figuring some things out. And honestly, going on to college, a gap year, trade school, whatever that looks like, that's going to provide you with so much valuable information that will help you make a more concrete decision about what your career would look like. But in the meantime, we want you to explore those things so that by the time you're a senior, you're not like, I have no idea. By the time you're a senior, we want to have at least a much more narrowed focus on what your interests are. All right, so we're going to kind of move into some Naviance information. And like I said, we'll do a walkthrough of Naviance quickly. So Naviance has a career section devoted entirely for the career piece. What they do is they break down careers into different clusters, pathways, and careers. So the first thing are clusters. We see a big slew of them right here. They organize them into a bunch of them. And the one we're going to look at here is the agricultural, food, and natural resources cluster. When we look there, it's going to give us different pathways. So it's going to give us different ways that we can maybe get to that type of cluster, different types of programs, systems, and it's also going to give you related occupations when you take a look at that section. So again, it's going to be a lot easier. I'll show you when we're actually live walking through it. But just so you're familiar with the terms that they're using, the clusters, the pathways, and the career / occupations, that kind of helps filter it down. So if you're a sophomore and you're just getting started on this, maybe you start identifying clusters that you like. Let me go back to clusters. So, excuse me, let me go back. Okay, so maybe like where you're at, if you're just getting started really, kind of seriously thinking about this, you think about clusters that you like rather than, oh, I need to narrow down the specific job. Clusters are a really productive way to get closer to identifying things that you like. So again, I'll show you in a little bit what that looks like on a larger scale or a more micro scale, excuse me. So one brief thing before we switch over to Naviance. I want to remind everyone with our new login instructions. I think when you were a freshman, the login instructions changed over and/or maybe previously a year before. So we now use a system called Clever, which integrates with our logins at the high school, which is really nice. So when you go to your student.naviance.com/Chatham site, it's going to bring you to a page here. You're going to click the student backpack, obviously, and you're not going to fill in the email password. You're going to click continue with Clever, and it will bring you to a page like this. And that's where you log in with your Chatham credentials. So for example, it's your username is first name, last name, and your password's the same one you use to log into like Schoology or your Chromebook. So it's really nice because you don't have to remember a totally separate Naviance password anymore. So for example, if I was a student, my login username would be Caitlin Slate, and my password would be whatever my Schoology password is. So just something to keep in mind. There's instructions on our website, and I can always send instructions if you forget, how to do that. Oh, excuse me. So at this point, I am going to switch on over our screen to the Naviance view. So my student here is called Ms. First name Ms., last name Slate. So you see welcome Ms. here. You'll see a very similar screen here welcoming you, and this is our overview homepage. You have some favorite buttons for quick access. There's some to-do tasks that have been assigned for Ms. Slate in the past, and other areas for quick searches for colleges. I'll be honest, I don't use the homepage all that much. It's a good landing page, but I use a lot of these sections here the most. So I do want to spend the most of our time on the career section and also the colleges section. So before we do that, I'm going to hop into these other sections here. So we'll kind of work a little bit backwards, I guess. So in My Planner, if you click on that, you can get to the My Planner section. There are a bunch of different online organizational tools that you can use. So there's a calendar, you can have goals, you can make yourself a to-do list. You can see that tasks that are assigned to you for things that you need to do. No tasks are assigned to you as a sophomore, but as you're a junior and a senior, we'll start assigning tasks to you there. So this can be really helpful if you're someone who just needs to stay organized and are trying to find a good way to do that. And I'll show later one of my favorite organizational tools I'll show you through Google once we're done with our Naviance tutorial. So that's the My Planner section. Pretty straightforward, pretty quick. I think of the tabs, that's probably the least used tab because most of our students have other ways to stay organized, but just keep that in mind if you do want to use that. So now we're going to go to the About Me section. This is, as it sounds, about you, about me. And it's going to overview different things about your account, resume, test scores, a portfolio I'll show you in a second. So what I want to emphasize right now is the resume. So the resume is a great tool on Naviance for you to just, if you are participating in an activity or something, you're reminded of something, just throw it onto your resume. That way, when you come to junior year or senior year, you can log back in here and be like, oh, that's right. Like I did that. Because sometimes it's hard to remember all the little things we did, whether it was a volunteer opportunity or something like that. And we want you to present, put your best foot forward, especially if you're using these for college applications. So as you can see, I have different experiences that I've added in previously. If I want to add a new one, I'll click a plus sign here, and it categorizes it really nicely. So I can add it all in here, which is great. If I want to do work experience and I want to say, let's say like store clerk at, I'll say Scoops, the ice cream place in town. I can say different types of things for the date. I'm just picking random stuff, right? And I'll click add. And it will add it on here. I can move things around. So if I want to move the different sections, I can move the different, generally, maybe you can't move the different sections. Sorry, I lied to you. But you can add new objectives and change and edit and remove different things as things change and develop. One of the best parts about the resume is you can go to the print export resume section. And I have previously saved resumes, but let's say I want to save the one I just added with my new job on there, right? So I'll hit the pink plus sign. I'll say resume. I'm just going to have the date on it from today. And there's different templates I can choose from. I prefer and you can preview them ahead of time. I prefer the first one. I'll click continue. I get to choose which things I want on there. So like, let's say, ooh, I definitely want that on there. Oh, I no longer work as a life, whatever that looks like. Let's say I want to take off like, animal shelter. You click save resume and I have it here. I can download it as a PDF. I can download it as a Word document, which is really nice if people still use Word, right? So I only clicked one thing, so it's not giving us a very thorough resume, but you get the idea, I think. So it's really great. It doesn't work with Google Docs, not yet at least, but it can be really, really helpful in terms of just kind of getting yourself organized in terms of things that you're doing. So back to the About Me, there's also a portfolio section, which is similar if you want to kind of see an overview of who you are. So there's not really, or like your Naviance portfolio essentially, right? So like if you took this assessment, it would have all your results here. If you, it has all your resumes on here. So it's just a nice overview. You can print that out if you want. It has a nice overview of who you are and the things that you've been doing on Naviance. And then in the About Me section, you can also see the assessments all here. So you can see Miss Slade has done most of her assessments, not all of them. So I'll show you here for now. For example, here's that Do What You Are. This will help you in identifying success and like your true personality and maybe help point you in some direction for some career related information. So you'll be able to click continue and see that it's going to start asking you questions that you're going to choose what you kind of relate with. And it's going to spit out answers for you, which is the best part, right? Because you're not doing all that much work. You're just answering questions about who you are and they're telling you information. All of this information we do want to take with a grain of salt, right? This is a robot. This is a computer. This is a program. It doesn't know you. It hasn't had a conversation with you. So, you know, some things you might say, that's not like me at all. And maybe that's just because of the way you answered a question or their algorithm. But I do think they're really helpful, like landing points, right? They help us kind of find some solid ground and then we can pivot and move from there. The other one I'll show you, so we talked about clusters earlier. So the Career Cluster Finder is great because, like I said, if you're overwhelmed by this process and you want to get started, I think the best thing is to identify some clusters. So for me, for example, when I took my assessment, it identified my top 3 clusters for me to explore, and it ranked all the clusters for me too. So actually it told me I should be in hospitality and tourism, so maybe I should quit my job. But at least education was the second one. So it ranks them all, which are really, really nice. It tells you about activities, personal qualities, school subjects that you would be interested in. So I, highly recommend the Career Cluster as a great place to get started. Let me go back this way. Career Interest Profiler is more in depth. It's going to give you different attributes and associating them with maybe a jobs that you might like. So obviously I had a very high score on social. So it was telling me that I should work in an occupation that has a lot of socialization in there, right? Working with people, teaching people, that kind of stuff. Realistic and conventional, those are those math minds, like I said earlier, not me. So I'm not going to go through everyone here. I highly recommend it. Learning Styles Inventory is a great place to start if you didn't as a freshman as well, because this gives you like what type of learner you are. So it helps you understand, am I better with as an auditory learner? Do I need to actually visual learner, see the information? Am I a tactile learner? So there's a lot of great assessments in there, like I mentioned. So in the career section here, this is what I mentioned before, there's something called Road Trip Nation. It's interviews with people on the job. So if you click Explore More, you can see all the different playlists and videos available. But just like with the other quizzes, you can take a quiz that will help you define your role, right? And it will spit out some videos for you. So it can be a really nice opportunity for you to take advantage of if you can't get out there, like we said. In the careers and clusters, this is in the career section, there's a I'm thinking about list, and this is a similar format for the college. We'll show you in a little bit. So the careers and clusters I'm thinking about, this is a working list, right? Nothing is set in stone. And I should reiterate too, from the college and career end, no one can see your stuff other than your counselors, right? So like other students can't see your information. Colleges can't see the information that's on here, right? So this is all just working, really a draft that we're working on here with this. So you're going to add different careers that you might be interested in here. And when you add certain careers, it might suggest different careers for you as well, right? So that's really, really helpful. If I go back to the career section, I can click on Explore Career Clusters. This is what I had shown you previously, that I can click on different clusters. So let's say biased, I'll click Education and Training, right? It's going to give you an overview of that cluster, the different pathways we talked about. It gives you a plan of study, like courses you should potentially take and related occupations. So the clusters is a great way to start because it is really broad, and then it can help really narrow it down for you. So let's say I was interested in being a librarian. If I clicked on librarian, it's going to go even more in depth into like the different occupations that you can do, or related occupations, excuse me. Related majors that you could look into, knowledge and skills, the wages, how much do they make nationally, how much they make in New Jersey. So there's a lot of information in there. And it's very easy to save that information to your I'm thinking about list. Like I said, all you have to do is a click of the heart over here. And if I went back to the careers I'm thinking about, I would see librarian here. So it's really very helpful tool to utilize as you're kind of exploring and looking through all these types of things. And then additionally, if you just want to go right for a career, so if you know for a fact, like I'm looking to be a vet, I could just search by vet and it'll bring me right there. I don't have to go through the cluster section. So absolutely highly recommend that you utilize this, especially as sophomore year. I know we get eager if we're thinking about college after high school. We're eager to just start with the college stuff because that's the exciting, fun stuff. But if you have this firm foundation of having an understanding of the things that you like or don't like, maybe some careers or clusters you might be interested in, that's just going to make your college process and your college search even easier. So I ask you, I beg you to do these things first prior to. It's kind of like college is the dessert if we're thinking about college as an option, and if you're eating dessert before dinner, right? We want to have dinner done first, and then we can have our dessert, okay? So in the colleges section, there is a plethora of information in here. I'm not going to go through all of them. A lot of these down here, that's for like seniors, right? We're not even there yet. We're not there yet. It will come quick, but we're not there yet. You can start very quickly up here, right, by starting with a college. I'll show you a college profile. So I'm going to search Drexel University. That's in Philadelphia. Great school if you're interested in it. Every school has their own profile. They have these nice pretty pictures, right? They give you an overview of the school. They give you different student life information, studies, and something that you might want to start looking at if you're interested, like admissions activity, right? You can see how many students in the past have been accepted, how many applied. You can see where you fall in the scale of applicants in the past. As a sophomore, though, I will emphasize this scattergram here, which what we call, it won't be that useful for you because you likely don't have an SAT or an ACT score. You see it's pulling from one of these, okay? So it can be helpful information to keep in mind, but this becomes a bit more usable in a junior or a senior year. But you certainly can look at it. I like looking at the college profiles because I'll show you an example. This is focused. This is much more quickly attainable information compared to if I look at their website, like, whoa, there's a lot going on with this website, a lot of yellow. So that's overwhelming to me. But if I look at this is a lot more digestible and you can get more information quicker. So search for your schools this way as well. Just like with the favorites, I'll unclick it. The colleges I'm thinking about list, I can do the same. I already had Drexel on there. I can click that and it will add it to my list. So speaking of colleges I'm thinking about, I'll show you that here as well. Similar setup as the careers I'm thinking about. This is a rough draft. You're adding schools that you were interested in or were thinking about. If someone told you about the school or grandma mentioned it or whoever you saw it, someone sent you an email, just add it on there, right? So when you are ready to do your search, you can easily go through and either delete, remove that school, or change the different things that you want to be doing. Your interest levels you can change if you're really interested in that school. So it just depends on what you want to do with that list. But I've seen people who've had like 50 schools on this list. Again, it's not an application list. It's just what you're thinking about. It's a rough draft. Supermatch is a tool that I think is very helpful. Let me clear that out for us. Because if you don't know where to start, but let's say certain qualitative elements, like let's say a location, like, oh, I definitely want to go to school in the Mid-Atlantic. It will populate schools that are in the Mid-Atlantic, but if I don't want to go to school in West Virginia and New Jersey and Maryland, I can click out of here and it's going to pull schools that are from that are in the Mid-Atlantic, right, and are not from those schools that you pulled out. You can also add other things like academics, the bachelor's degree. You can add, how large you want the school to be, if you want it to be a mid-sized school. So it can be a really helpful, oh, this one, okay, so this one said that there was 0. So sometimes filtering is too much, right? Sometimes you don't want to filter all that much because then you get 0 results. But this can help you get started in terms of just getting an idea where you might want to look. Additionally, in the colleges in the college lookup, you can just look for colleges that are, popular or are on our quick list. You can also look through like a college map. So there's a lot of lists here. And if you want to see one like Common App schools, it's a lot of schools. So it takes a long time to load. If you say, oh, I only want to apply to schools that use the Common Application, the Common App is an application that we use as seniors that allows you to fill out your information one time and then you send it out to everyone. So it's really nice. You can search by looking at the map and doing that. Long story short, there are a ton of things you can do on Naviance, especially college related. There's college compare information. I don't have any colleges yet because I am not applying, but if you start adding colleges to your colleges I'm applying to list as a senior, it will compare me to those schools and average acceptance rate. So there's a lot of really, really helpful tools on here. So that's Naviance in a nutshell. This will be, you'll be hearing this a lot. This will be gone over with you as a junior. So I don't want to inundate you with all this information, but if you are interested in getting started. These other things I'll throw up here are great career and future resources. So our high school website, I also created a college and career website this year that I continue to add to. It's a Google site, so it's really user-friendly. Raise Me is a great scholarship site. So if you're interested in a college path and you're also looking to raise some money, start with scholarships, you create an account and certain colleges commit to giving you certain levels of scholarship based on getting the honor roll, being on the soccer team, things like that. So I definitely recommend looking at that now as a sophomore because you can accumulate those over the years to when you're a senior. Not every school participates with it, so you just got to see what schools do, but that can be great for students. The College Board has a site specifically called Big Future where it's focused on majors and careers, so they go even more in depth, and they're obviously a reliable resource as well. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. Department of Labor, I know it's kind of boring for us students because it's like the government, right? But they are the most reliable. That's where the data from the nation is coming from there. And actually BLS and ONET, that's what Naviance works with in terms of getting their data as well. So ONET is another really nice resource for career information. And then of course, I personally just like the College Majors 101 site if you just want to see an overview of different college majors. And I mentioned before a organizational tool, and if you likely are familiar with it, but if you're not, I highly recommend it. I know it looks like a lot right now, but it's called Google Keep. It's part of our Chatham accounts. It's in our little waffle grid here, Google Keep, and they're just mini Post-it notes that you can help to stay organized. I use this in my personal life. Mine obviously doesn't look like this because I don't have geometry class. But I made an example here to show you how these are different ways that you can maybe keep organized for different classes. You could have a list here eventually that maybe says college search or something along those lines. So I think it is a great tool. The best part about it is that it's a really user-friendly app. So I pretty much only access it from my phone. So it's really great. I highly recommend that you look into it. You can set reminders to remind you to do maybe a homework assignment. I can add collaborators. So for example, this isn't school related. My husband and I have a grocery list on this, right? So we can add things to this. You can color code your notes. You can insert images. So if you're in class and you take a picture of a graph or something, or a picture that you need, you can draw on there. It's endless. There's so much stuff you can do on it. I'm going to stop talking about it so I don't sound like such a nerd. But I definitely recommend it if you're looking for ways to stay organized, especially through your phone that isn't an additional app. It's already part of your Google Suite. So things to be thinking about. I will say, again, you remember it's not a race. There is no, you don't have to submit an answer by the end of your time here with us at Chatham. But as I said and alluded to earlier, the stronger foundation you build, the easier your college search will be or your career search will be as you're moving forward. So keep looking and using Naviance and use those assessments. You can keep your Naviance updated. It's kind of like a college and career Google Drive that you just can throw stuff in there, right? Finish your year strong. Academics are important, especially if we're thinking about the college path. So make sure you're focusing on your schoolwork. Definitely strong grades will be an important part of telling your story when we get to the application process. And use this time to explore. We're kind of window shopping here. We're not buying a dress or a suit. We're window shopping. We're thinking about the things that you like, your interests. I have listed here a summer database, which is also on our website, so you can access it there, which is just a listing of different summer program opportunities. And again, that website that we have here. And I am in my room, A110, so feel free to stop by if you're in person, if you want to email. I've been setting up Google Meets with students. This time of year is a bit busy because I oversee all of our AP exams, and we have like over 1,200 of those. So if not now, towards the end of the school year, absolutely we can talk or either have you connect with your counselor. But thank you again for being here today. I know I kind of talked pretty fast, but it's a lot of information I wanted to get you all. So thank you again.